Is there anything that hasn't been said about the Croatian coast in rapturous guidebooks and colorful brochures of travel agents? And if there were anything, the 5 million tourists a year can experience it every season. Nature has blessed this pearl of the Mediterranean area with extreme richness. Besides the coastline broken by bays, islands, and reefs, sunny beaches, high rocky mountains, and green hills, its enticement can be attributed to cultural and art historic treasures. All this together with a pleasant climate and various activities make Croatia one of the most frequented tourist destinations in Europe. The landscape has enchanted a lot of famous people. For instance, Shakespeare and Shaw, London and Goldoni, Lord Byron, and Agatha Christie, who spent her honeymoon in Dubrovnik and Split. Isadora Duncan, the famous dancer, spent her summers here, but famous painters, composers, and also rulers chose this place as their holiday destination. One of the most beautiful love stories took place here when English King Edward VIII gave up the throne for the sake of the American Wallis Simpson, and they escaped together here to romantic Dalmatia. At that time, it attracted so much public attention that it soon became fashionable among wealthy people to spend their summer holidays here. The azure blue sea, shining sky, smiling islands, fabulous landscape. Odysseus' heart, according to legend, was captured not only by Nausicaa. Rijeka is the third biggest city of the coast. It lies on the northern part of the Kvarner Bay. It's framed by the mountains Utska, Snesnik, Riznak, and Velebi. Construction on its harbor began in 1719. This was the only significant sea harbor of the Austro-Hungarian monarchy and the biggest harbor for wood products in the world. After World War II, the daredevil writer and poet, the Italian Gabriele D'Annunzio, who was famous for his scandalous love affairs with the greatest actress of the age, Eleanor Duse, occupied the city with his army of free men and forced it to be joined to Italy. Today, cargo and passenger ships depart from the old military harbor. In the harbor stands what was long ago the palace of the biggest ship insurance company of the world, Lloyd. The monarchic style of the empire and Art Nouveau buildings make the city similar to Vienna or Budapest, in the atmosphere of which the beach and the palm trees smuggle some southern flavors. From near the harbor, from Jadransky Square, the main street of the city starts, the ever-busy pedestrian zone. The long-stretching promenade runs along the old city wall, leading up Tsiot Mountain, which is a pleasant hiking place today with the old castle of the Frangipani family on top. The pedestrian zone is well known for its elegant shops, cafes with terraces, and intimate restaurants. In one of the side streets of the promenade still stands the Golden Shell that was the favorite place of the great tenor Caruso. The crown of the promenade is the town gate with the clock tower, which is decorated with the coat of arms of Fiume, featuring an eagle and the crown. Its Baroque statues depict Leopold I and Charles IV. The Empire-style building of the Croatian radio and television in Rijeka gave home to the first Croatian reading circle. Crikvenica, in fact, was built together with the neighboring Dramai and Salce. In 1412, the landlord of the area, the Frangipani family, established a monastery on the place of the town. The village built around the church was given its name after the old church. After centuries, the castle built on the monastery changed to Castle Hotel. The first building for the purpose of offering accommodation was erected only in 1891. The Ka and Ka style health resort reminds us not coincidentally of Karlovy Vary or Bad Ischl, with the difference that the number of sunny hours of the day is more than 2,500. Along the beautifully landscaped promenade, there are several places where we can swim. The sand carried here by the creek is refilled occasionally, so clean sand awaits bathers all the time. A climate that is mild even in winter, hotels, sanatoriums, and indoor swimming pools meeting the requirements of Austrians attract those who suffer from disorders of the nervous system, are anemic, or convalescent. Fortunately, we don't have to be necessarily ill to enjoy the hotels and beaches of this friendly, familiar town. Crikvenica and its surroundings provide us, besides sport activities and cultural events, with nice excursions. On the coast of the blue water plain of Adriatic, shining from the distance, Crikvenica glitters like a precious stone. This was written in a bathing guidebook of Dalmatia in 1926. The cityscape of Zadar is unique, with the long-stretching bay, the inland side of which gives place to the new part of the city with modern buildings, office buildings, and lines of shops, while the old town, crowded with monuments, stands on a little peninsula opposite. The hotel zone is approximately 4 kilometers from here, from where there's a nice view of the towers of the old town. The narrow bay opposite the town gate is linked by a footbridge. People of Zadar inside the town walls live their everyday life. The favorite venue of locals is the cafe opposite the flower and vegetable market, which gives opportunity for a little information exchange. The elegant colonnade of the street front differs greatly from the simple massiveness of the Roman St. Chrysogonus Church. The high altar and the frescoes originate from the 13th century. The churches, Sveti Marcello and Sveti Petar, are nearby, in which not very stylishly modern art exhibitions are held. We should not take our monument-seeing tour during beach time, when their shade would be appreciated more than any of the most precious art historical buildings. The late afternoons are more suitable for sightseeing. Zadar locals also flock together in the streets after siesta and don't go home until late at night. There are plenty of things to do here. The St. Mary's Church has been renovated in Baroque style. Its bell tower was built by Coloman I, the Learned, preserving, however, Roman characteristic features. At almost 900 years, it's the oldest bell tower of Dalmatia. And we still haven't mentioned the several other churches, museums, and palaces. It's worth visiting the building of St. Francis Monastery, the marvelous icon collection of the St. Elias Church, the Palace of the Archbishop, the Archaeological Museum, the St. Shimon Church with the famous silver coffin, the Roman Sanctuary, and the National Museum of Zadar, which shows the various ages of the city. The medieval palaces are impressive, for instance, Gherardini and Grisogono. The Corinthian pillar, which used to be a pillory in the Middle Ages, stands at the Roman Forum. The Forum surfaced after the bombing of World War II. The fortress-like building of the St. Donatus Church stands beside the ruins of the square. A lot of Roman stones were used for its construction in the 9th century. The two-nave, irregular, octagonal building of the church is the most significant monument in Zadar. It forms a complex unity with the cathedral, the palace of the archbishop, and the seminary. The church has beautiful acoustics and classical concerts are often held here. The current main square of the city is Narodni Trg, where street musicians entertain the tourists while they eat ice cream. The Renaissance building of the city loggia, as well as the loggia of the Guard, was built in 1565 based on designs by San Michele. The Baroque clock tower was placed on it in the 18th century. The town hall stands on Narodni Trg, where we can find impressive medieval palaces nearby. Archbishop Donat sainted the builder of the church for whom it was named after his death. The city of Zadar submitted to the Hungarian king, Kaloman I the Learned, during the Venetian-Croatian War. According to the Chronicon Pictum, Saint Donat appeared in the king's dream and threatened him with a stick if the king dared to harass city dwellers. Whether it was the cause or not, however, it's a fact that under Hungarian reign, Zadar had full autonomy for centuries. King Louis I of Hungary was so popular in the city that one side of the 250-kilogram silver coffin containing the bones of Saint Simon was decorated with pictures depicting his memorable deeds. The two bronze angels holding the coffin were made of recycled cannons looted in Ottoman times. The classical palace of the headquarters, Pet Bunara, stands on the square of the Five Wells. Stairs lead up to the city park from here, which is actually a green, blooming hillside with a beautiful view leading to the city walls and bulwark. Babda Kula, the huge, angular fortress tower, rises at the corner of the square. Biograd na Moru once bore a Hungarian name, Tengerfehérvár, and was the site of the coronation of Croatian kings from 1019. The Hungarian king, Koloman the Learned, mentioned earlier, was also crowned Croatian king here in 1102, which meant the beginning of an 800-year-long Croatian-Hungarian union. A remarkable agreement made the ideology of the Crusades into the service of Venetian power interests. The Doge knew that Crusaders couldn't pay enough for the usage of the fleet of St. Mark. Therefore, he wanted them to reconquer Zadar and its surroundings for him, including Tengerfehérvár, from the Hungarian king. The city, despite the protests of the Pope, was burnt. The Ottomans then destroyed the rest of its monuments, thus the small town with its famous past is only a holiday resort on a peninsula with 5,000 residents, the only remaining site of which is its famous church. The most noteworthy natural park of Croatia is Plitvice. However, those who spend their summer holiday in Zadar do not have to travel hundreds of kilometers for similar natural wonders. The 45-mile-long Krka River and environs are abundant in villages and very special waterfalls. Krka National Park became the 7th nature reserve of the country in 1985, which is frequently visited due to its favorable location. Going through Sibenik Bay, motorboats carrying tourists pass under the bridge of the Adrian Highway every hour in high season. The sites can be approached by both ship and bus. The price is included in the entrance fee. The area of the national park is 1,580 square feet, of which the water surface covers 96.5 square miles. Near the waterfalls, the flora and fauna are extremely rich and interesting. 860 kinds of plants and 222 species of birds live here. Moreover, out of the 18 fish species, 10 can be found only here. Fishing and hunting is, however, forbidden here. In fact, we must keep other rules too in order to let the following generations enjoy the beauties of nature as well. In Krka, the ruins of a 14th century fortress, churches, monasteries, and watermills can also be found. The recreation area, snack bar, and the souvenir shop were created from an old watermill. If we haven't taken any snack with us, here we can find something, as well as film and batteries for our camera. On the right side of the river, between the town of Skadrin and the rapids, we can see the remaining parts of the Roman Skadron plumbing system. We can take romantic walks among the ruins that are overgrown with plants. The frothing river scooped a deep canyon into the karst. Where more solid rocks blocked its way, the most spectacular parts of the waterfall were formed. The falls of the 7 tufaceous stairs of the Skradini Rapids are 794 feet high altogether. The 17 steps of Skradinski Buk, created by limestone sedimentary, and its benches overgrown by plants enchant everyone who sees it. There are some people who walk and take photographs or look around on bridges standing on piles built on the lake. Some people only watch bathers with envious eyes. The braver ones, however, can even have a swim in the lake or stand under the waterfall cascading down from the height. The depth of the lake can sometimes be 66 feet, so it's advisable to swim only in the designated area. The temperature's milder in summer than we would expect in a place like this. The town of Sibenik is not as well known as Dubrovnik, Rijeka, or Split. Therefore, it could bring us the pleasure of discovery, making our journey a more pleasant experience. Sibenik, with its gorgeous old town, was built near Krka National Park and the Kornati Islands, so it's in the middle of a marvelous natural environment. The medieval houses of the old town, erected from white stones, the narrow lanes, huge sunlit squares, and the uniform late Gothic atmosphere of ornate buildings raised the town again to the level of Split, Zadar and Trogir, which were its chief rivals in the medieval ages. The maintenance of the promenade near the harbor shows us that Sibenik can compete with its neighbors both as a holiday resort and day trip destination. As in almost every settlement of the Croatian coast, tourist sites are centered around the harbor in Sibenik too. The fact that its industrial plants, which had marred the coast, were liquidated after the South Slavic War also contributed to the town's rediscovery. The row of statues depicting 70 human heads commemorates the residents of the city who contributed to the building of the St. James Church. The detailed faces express various feelings, serious and more cheerful, strict, smiling, and sad. The group is a bright spot on the wall portraying saints. The building of the town hall belongs to the local government as a fine example of historic continuance. Almost every inch of the pillared, balconied building, framed by two grand staircases, is ornamented. The room of the town guard, as well as the pillory, used to be under the staircases. On Republic Square, the St. James Cathedral, which was considered to be the main work of sculptor and architect Juraj Dalmatinak, stands opposite the nine-arched loggia. The famous artist of the early medieval ages was given his name after his origin, just like the painter El Greco. He was obsessed with working on the Sibeniki church from 1431 to 1473, devoting all his energy and wealth to it. His death prevented him from finishing his work, so it was left to his student, Niccolò Fiorentino. The church has 3 naves, a barrel vault with the facade following the arch of the vault. The western gate depicts Jesus and the apostles, while the northern gate, Adam and Eve. The figure of the first naked couple stands naive and helpless in front of us, a little remorsefully because of their disguised sensuality, writes the best-known Croatian art historian Otto Bihaj Merlin, whose wonderful book can help a lot with discovering hidden Dalmatian monuments. The self-portrait of Dalmatinak is also thought to be there in the group of statues. However, we don't know which one he is. On what grounds Ivan Mesterović, the famous Croatian sculptor, made the monument of his predecessor is, however, a mystery. The former walls of the town can hardly be seen today from the little houses built in front of, behind, and on it. This labyrinth-like part of town, Borgo, is a district where Bosnians settled, offering a scenic view even in its quite ruinous and confused state. The romanticism of Borgo and the site of the fishing harbor stretching in front of it are used by photographers and artists too. Dalmatinak himself used to live here once too. St. Anna Fortress, built by the Venetians, rises 80 meters above the town. A high wall was erected on the side of the mainland. Towards the sea, however, the view is beautiful of Sibeniki Bay, St. Anthony Channel, and the estuary of the Krka River. The fortress used to function as a line of defense, together with 3 other castles. From the top, sailors still use flags to give signals to the boats, just as they used to. Primosten is about 17 miles away from Sibenik. It looks like an island from the distance, which is of course no coincidence, as it was in fact an island once. It was established in the 16th century by Bosnians who escaped from the Ottomans. The Ottomans disliked shipping, therefore the island offered a good shelter from them. After their departure, the dwellers built a new bridge and a bank. The bay created this way gives place to a harbor that was used only by fishermen for centuries. However, nowadays, it's gained in popularity with yacht owners. The small town with its 1,400 inhabitants offers a romantic view, especially from a distance. Recently, Primosten has wanted to become a real art village like Saint-Paul-de-Vence on the French Riviera. The locals feel slight hostility towards it, calling it Snob City, but artists are still drawn to it. The works of occasional artists can be seen along the harbor promenade, and works of more prestigious artists in the municipal gallery. However, it's possible that we'll be much more fascinated by the serenity of the little town than any of the pictures. In Trogir, shades of the still visible past enchant us. We have to discover the town thoroughly to believe that once it could match Ragusa or even Venice. Trogir was once a peninsula, but the promontory was severed even before Christ. The bridge leading to the old town reaches land at St. Nicholas Nunnery. The famous embossment depicting Kairos, the god of fortune, was dug out in a yard of a house in Trogir and is exhibited here. Tarnished yellow, nice slim figure of a boy that rushes away, flies away like time. His locks are waving in the wind. He keeps the scales of fortune with him, but God is broken. A defeated captive of Devotional Sisters Monastery, the selfish guardians of Christianity let pass not only the moment, but life itself. The little loggia leans against the town wall directly behind the monastery. Travelers arriving after the closure of the town gate could sleep in this bulky little building. They would have probably preferred a hotel, although that's difficult to find in high season even today. Trogir has become a fashionable tourist destination. Its promenade, beautified with palm alleys, has been visited in ever-growing numbers by wealthy foreign seamen. The sights center only on a small area. It's worth seeing the town hall, the clock tower, and several other monuments. Maybe the most beautiful is the St. Lawrence Cathedral, in which Roman, Gothic, and Renaissance elements are harmonically mixed. The Zipico Palace bears the name of the winning Trogirian captain of the sea battle of Lepanto. Camerlengo fortress at the end of the island began to be built under the aegis of defense under the Venetians. Later, it was finished by them and created the current form, the zigzag patterned town halls and corner bastion with breastwork. The defenders of the town tried to protect the harbor with an old Byzantine method, namely blocking it with huge iron chains. The romantic atmosphere of the town can be attributed to the 13th century curving, zigzag streets, Gothic windows, archways, pillared balconies, and inner courtyards decorated with embossments. Trogir, especially in the evening, is like a bit of Venice, which is no wonder since it was under the rule of the Winged Lion from 1322. When the Tatars raided Europe, Hungarian King Bela IV monitored their preparation from Trogir and offered his daughter Margit to God. The Tatars moved away and Margit entered the nunnery on the island of the Rabbits, which bears her name today. The Bay of the Seven Castles is located between Trogir and Split. A sad story is connected to this one too. The fortified castles giving the name to the bay were built by noblemen who had estates along the coastline. The most famous of them belongs to the Rossani family, and in this chapel, the local Romeo and Juliet have been sleeping the sleep that knows no waking since 1681. Split is a cultural, tourist, commercial, and industrial center and the second largest city of Croatia. Its central location, mild climate, and unique cultural treasures are a great attraction. The most famous monument of Split is the Diocletian's Palace, which is on the World Heritage List of UNESCO. The city was of no importance during Greek and Roman times. Probably it would have remained so if the native Diocletian, who rose from soldier to emperor, had not chosen the city as the site for his palace. The promenade, the railway station, and the bus station are all situated next to each other at the beginning of the seaside alley of palms. This is the central part of the city, where the palace, which was built of white stone from Brock Island, Italian and Greek marble, hides behind 66-foot-high town walls not far from here. When the 430-square-foot group of palaces was erected, neither the town walls nor the houses attached to it existed. Not even the harbor promenade was there, which was the result of a refill later. The way to the arched cellar through the bronze gate, between the lane of art galleries and little shops, used to be the sea gate of the palace, the place where the emperor embarked on his galley. There was a gate on every wall of the palace. These were linked by two main roads, Cardo and Dicumanus, crossing each other. The tower of St. Dumo Cathedral surpasses the walls of the palace. Its entrance was once guarded by two black granite sphinxes brought from Egypt. Today, only one of them is there. The other one is next to the Temple of Jupiter. And of course on the trade sign of the neighboring terraced cafe. But he's seen still something better. He saw how the Christian church became a Roman mausoleum, and how Venetian palaces were born of ancient marble and old gravestones. This way, it's no wonder that the Sphinx smiles a bit skeptically at the epigraphs of Christian cultures and civilizations. The octagonal mausoleum of Diocletian that the emperor designated as his final resting place stands to the right of the church. The revengeful archbishops, however, removed the sarcophagus of the faithless emperor. The six-storied bell tower was built for centuries and thus reflects different architectural styles from Roman to Renaissance in each level. After centuries, Napoleon was intent on making Split Spalato at that time, the seat of the province Illyr, and appointed Marmon as its governor. After the fall of Napoleon, it became part of Austria, then Yugoslavia. Between the two world wars, because Fiume was attached to Italy, Split became the biggest and fastest developing harbor of the country. You just walk slowly, pondering the zigzag streets paved with heavy stones inherited from ancient times, and watch the extravaganza of houses all in a heap, built among crumbling gray walls of the enormous palace, the place inhabited by thousands of people even today. The past was actually lost in the mists of time in these streets and alleys. Among these people who live their everyday life here, inside the marble walls, there's simply no sign of the echo of distance. No engraving can be seen, and there's no trace of the presence of old rulers. A new life has begun between the old walls. The 21st century throbs in the shade of the palace. Some famous statues of Juraj Dalmatinac and Ivan Mestrovich can be seen in the city. The enormous monument depicting Archbishop Gergely holding the Holy Bible in his hand is believed to bring luck if the toe of the statue is rubbed. A gallery was set up of the artworks of Mestrovich in the former house of the master. Makarska is the eponymous settlement of the Riviera. It's a holiday resort in beautiful surroundings. A luscious green palm boulevard runs along behind its mile-long gravel beach. The horseshoe bay of the promenade is protectively embraced by the St. Peter and Osajava peninsulas. The harbor is quite busy in high season as ferries to Brock Island depart from here. The high mountain behind the settlement, Biokovo, gives protection to Makarska. The peak, always cloaked in clouds, prevents rain clouds from invading the territory, exactly like the landmass protecting the French Riviera. The lush flora creating a southern atmosphere in the city is attributed to this. St. Mark Church from the 18th century stands on the main square. The building, framed by green, blooming trees, stands on a hill, dwarfed by the high mountain in the background. Makarska was once the trading center of salt mines in Bosnia-Herzegovina. This activity ensured welfare and jobs for the dwellers of the town for centuries. The place of commerce was gradually taken over by tourism, which today provides most of the income. On the harbor, framed by flowers, stands St. Philip's Church. It was part of a group of monasteries where today an open-air theater is in operation. At Neum, a 4-kilometer-long seaside lane belongs to Bosnia-Herzegovina. This extremely special landscape, reminiscent of Asian rice paddies, is the estuary of the Neretva. We can see a colorful white water land enclosed by mountains and hills. This little green area, broken by streams, is the Moor of Hutova. On the border of the two countries, SFOR, a stabilization force of NATO, maintains public safety, but today most of the lookout stations are empty. The ancient town of Dubrovnik has already suffered a lot of wars and serious earthquakes. Last time it was under siege during the Croatian War of Independence in 1992. 10 years have passed, and the city, with the effective support of the UN, has gained back its old glory. Almost every house has a new red roof. Chiseled white stone walls reflect the rays of the sun. Dubrovnik, which was among the first to become part of the World Heritage, is more beautiful than ever. It offers such an experience that despite its isolated location and distance from the larger beaches, it should not be missed. Soon, a new cable railway is going to lead up to the 1,351-foot-high Srd mountain. The renovation of the apparatus damaged in the war is to begin soon, according to plans. The panorama is simply wonderful. We can take the best pictures of the old town from here. The thick walls are 82 feet high in places. They were made impregnable by 15 towers, 5 bastions, and 2 corner fortifications. The fresh green island of Lokrum is opposite the old town, only 10 minutes away by boat. The whole island is one big arboretum where little romantic rocky bays overgrown by lemon trees, agave, pine trees, and bay trees offer a good place for swimming or sunbathing. Walking into the old town, we can understand why Alberto Moravia said that we travel in time, not in space. The atmosphere of the city shoots us back to the past. The first settlers could have been the escaping dwellers of the nearby Epidaurus. They chose the little islands and cliffs that were very difficult to approach, which were linked to each other by filling the narrow strait only centuries later as a protection against Avars and Slavs. The mountain pass ran along the present-day main street. By the 13th century, the building of town walls was mostly finished, and the picture of the old town that can be seen today was shaped. The settlement was called Raguzza at that time, and for a long time, which means the man who lives on the cliff in Latin. Tourists usually enter the city from the parking lot through Buja Gate. From here, along steep stairs among houses, we reach the perpendicular 984-foot-long, 66-foot-wide main street, called Stradon in Latin and Plakan in Croatian. The high houses and narrow streets provide shelter from the ferocious sun, and clean clothes are not hung indoors, of course. The huge bell tower of the Franciscan monastery is a dominating element of the town picture. Its 3 floors represent 3 different styles. The spiral pillars of the bottom windows are Gothic, the arched strict hatches of the middle floor represent late Gothic, while only loopholes were placed at the top. The interesting spot of the bell tower of Sponza Palace is the clock symbolizing the sun, its elongated ray showing the exact time. The busiest square, maybe the place that is the biggest attraction, is Pred Dvorom, the meeting place of Plaka and the fishing harbor. The martyr, Archbishop St. Blaise, is the patron saint of the city. The church that was named after him was built in 1715. It's a 3-nave Baroque church with the statue of the saint who holds the city in his hand. The Orlando pillar was made by Master Antun Dubrovkan in 1418. Like the medieval Roland pillars, it was a symbol of the independence of the city, though it was used as a pillory too. The sword of the knight functioned as a unit of measurement. 1 Dubrovnik cloth yard was equal to 51.2 centimeters. The artwork of Pietro Martino da Milano is the Little Onofrio well, which, decorated with dolphins and gargoyles, spouts water next to the building of the first guard. The main harbor of the city-state was the old one until the appearance of huge steamships, and from the mole we can reach the city through 2 gates. The Gothic gate on the side of the fishing harbor and fish market was erected at the end of the 1300s, and on the side of the mole a century later in Renaissance style. The harbor could preserve its former layout till nowadays, its entrance guarded by a long stretching breakwater. Little pleasure boats leave to the island of Lokrum, where we can rent a boat if we're interested in the Blue Cave on the Lapad Peninsula. The otherwise scenic picture of the harbor is further colored by private yachts and fishing cogs. Here we can browse around for hours. In the evening, we can go on a cruise to see the flamboyant sunset. We shouldn't be surprised that on the wall of the fortress facing the harbor, St. Blaise gives us a blessing. He has 17 statues in the city altogether. It's obvious that religious, sometimes even superstitious fishermen who do dangerous work would also have liked to partake of the blessing. The city walls give home to the extremely interesting Naval Museum. It's worth seeing for everybody, but for those who sail themselves, it's a must. we can go up to the city walls right of Pila Gate. 15 bastions with a fascinating view of the city can be found on the walls, which are nearly 1¼ miles wide. The original church on the place of the cathedral is thought to have been established by Richard the Lionhearted on his way home from the Holy Land, giving thanks for his escape. The huge Baroque building of the present-day three-nave Our Lady Cathedral was built at the turn of the 15th and 16th centuries. Its altarpiece was painted by Titian. However, we can see some pictures of Raphael too. The ambulatory of the monastery joined to the church is like a live medieval vision. Orange trees and evergreens, sunshine filtering through the old marble well, and ornamented pillars. The little treasury of the church hides such treasures as the bones of Saint Blaise, the headpiece of King Stephan, or the rector chair of Ragusa, bearing witness and enduring the trials of times better than the former rulers themselves. The Senate held congresses in the Rector Palace. Ragusa was governed from here. Above the gate leading to the Congress room, there was a sentence carved in stone which all politicians had to keep in mind. Obliti privatorum publica curate, namely, forget about your private business and deal with public matters. On the square stands the statue of the poet Ivan Kundulic, author of the pastoral play called Dubrovka. It's a panegyric song of freedom in Dubrovnik, one of the most poetic dramas that was created in the late Renaissance in Europe. We can walk on a nice Baroque staircase to the Jesuit church named after Ignatius of Loyola. The bell tower was made in 1355, so it's the oldest in the city. The building was designed by the Roman architect Andrea Pozzo on the grounds of a church there. The ostentatiously colossal church was made under the influence of the spread of Counter-Reformation in Ragusa. The Jesuit church and friary is called Collegium Ragosinum. The place where it stands is the oldest part of the city, the former settlement of Greek-Roman fishermen. Every house, every little street offers a new color, a new atmosphere here. The alleys with many stairs lead among patrician houses ornamented in wood and old residential houses. The street which opens at the bottom of the stairs goes to the former silos of the Ragusan Republic. In the center of the square behind Pila Gate stands the 16-angled domed Onofria fountain by the Neapolitan master Onofrio della Cava. Its gargoyles depict human and animal faces. The only ornament of the simple building of the Franciscan monastery is the beautiful Pieta above the entrance, made by Leonard Petrovich. The Pila Gate is a round-arched bastion with drawbridges, which were used in the Middle Ages. The bridge was drawn and the gate was closed every night. The Hungarian poet Moru wrote his romantic novel, The Three Marble Heads, about Dubrovnik and the statue heads above the Renaissance Gate in 1887. This beautiful landscape has been struck by wars and earthquakes, but it has always revived from its ruins, stating that beauty is forever and indestructible.